There is a misunderstanding, okay, in the sector of tokenization that when you tokenize, you're always tokenizing a security. This is not reality.
Even it's hard for you to keep track of all these different laws. So how do you manage these different fragmented compliances?
Then we have the management, and then we have what we want to do with the asset, no? If we want to provide dividends or other things, no? The management is the big misunderstood of the sector, because we think that issuance and giving the profit is what matters, but it's not the only thing.
When it started, it was a category for VCs to list out, okay, these are different startups that are under RWA, under real world asset. But if you classify your asset as RWA rather than going into a particular direction, you're just overcomplicating the thing.
That is super interesting. For me, it's a change in our mind, no? Like how you can use an utility token, then convert it into a equity token.
I'm still trying to fathom that it's possible. Wow.
It is possible.
At the end, every situation comes down to these three aspects that people miss: issuance, management, and usage. Elisenda, most welcome to What Are You Tokenizing? I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. And just to set the tone of this, episode that we are going to have, I know that you are from a legal background, and I want to assure my audience that this is one episode that you cannot miss out on, because as I was just talking to Elisanda before this podcast session, that the legal industry is the first industry people get scammed into. Sadly, unfortunately, whenever someone starts thinking about a product, the first thing that they want is legal opinion where they should put up, and that's where they get scammed. Most innovative ideas don't even see the light of the day because of wrong or incomplete legal outlook, and that's why it's our honor to have you today on our podcast, Elisanda.
Thank you, and it's totally true what you are saying. It's a very important thing, and I hope I can give some light on the doubts that the audience may have.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. So before we start, I would love to have some basic intro of what you are doing and where you're currently working.
Okay, well, I'm a general counsel. This means that I provide legal counsel inside a company, okay? This is common in several types of companies, but in my case, I work in a company based on Barcelona, Spain, that basically provides a software, okay, in order companies can tokenize their assets. What it means that to convert a real asset into their digital representation. Okay, we are like a software provider, as normally in Web2 space, but in this case, we use blockchain and we provide that software.
Amazing, amazing. And like, how many years has it been for you in the legal industry?
In the legal industry, I have been working 8 years, but in the, like we can say, Web3 environment, I've been working 3 years and a half.
Oh, that's amazing. So what was that particular, I'll say first experience, and maybe any courtroom experience or contract experience or a compliance headache that made you want to get into Web3? Or was it just a curious client in most cases?
Well, in this case, it's because I was working in a company that is automotive company, okay, in Barcelona, and they started implementing blockchain topics, but it was not related to legality, okay, it was related to self-drive cars, okay, and I get super interested about that and started reading. And here in Europe, okay, because we are like in the Europe framework, legal framework, I started reading about the EWIPO, okay, that is the trademark agency. And they started working, okay, it was one of these agencies very pioneering. They started registering trademarks, okay, in order to be protected in blockchain. And that fascinated me. I was super like, wow, this is going to break a lot of barriers, you know? And then I started thinking about a lot of manners that legal topics or legal issues can be solved through blockchain, no? And that is what made me really interested in the topic.
Amazing, amazing. And that's such a fascinating story, because I've seen many people try to bring their trademarks and patents onto blockchain. They have been trying to create a blockchain ecosystem obviously they do not get support from legacy system. That's why there is
Mhm.
no big platform out there, but it's the shortest way to make sure that your work doesn't get stolen or
Correct.
replicated, right? And when you think of it, that forms the basis of all legal arguments and such, right?
Mhm.
Any single, like if you are able to create a single source of truth through blockchain, it solves legal problems before they even become a problem, right?
Correct.
Amazing, amazing. So you mentioned something, the platform that you are currently working for, who is helping people tokenize. I would love to have more insights on that. What exactly are they doing?
In Brickken, you mean like the company that I work now? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what like you can use the platform, okay, in several manners. You can use the SaaS, like the SaaS concept that we already know, no, from the software perspective. Then
Yes.
it has API, or we have a white label. Okay, basically what the companies do. Imagine that you are based on India and you have a company and you have your legal advice, but you don't have the technology, okay, to convert a real world asset into their digital representations. Then you will have Brickken in order to solve that issue, okay? You can use the SaaS, or if you prefer to have your own branding, you can use the white label, okay? And you will ask like, okay, but there is the legal issues, there
Yes.
is several things, no,
I
that
was
we have
about to
without.
ask.
Yeah, because we are a provider, a technological provider, infrastructure provider, but we have also a marketplace of legal advisors. Okay, imagine that you are in India and you don't have a contact of a law firm, then you can go to our marketplace, and we have several specialists in several types of tokenization, because it's something that I will explain you later. But we have several specialists in India that can help you do that. Okay, and you can contact them. Okay, and I am saying several specialists because depending on the asset that you want to tokenize, okay, because we are specialized in financial instruments, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on the instrument that you want to tokenize, you will go with a specific lawyer. For instance, if you want to tokenize shares, if you want to tokenize bonds or debt, okay. I don't know if it was clear, my explanation, a little bit difficult.
No, 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 100%, 100%. And you know, this is a mistake that most people do when they want to tokenize something. They think that a lawyer who has experience with, let's say, tokenizing real estate assets, he can help me tokenize a financial asset like a custody solution. That's not going to happen. You need a specific person with their experience in that industry to help you.
Correct.
It's just like any sports. Like if you're playing cricket, a very good bowler is not going to be a good batsman. uh, and saying
Totally
that
right.
okay, they both play cricket is a very big statement, general statement, right? So definitely makes sense, and it's good to see that there are such solutions in the market where people can find a particular lawyer.
Correct.
So one thing that comes to my mind while talking about this marketplace is that obviously there are multiple lawyers in multiple assets, but there is always a starting point, right? The first
Mhm.
legal challenge that a company faces, which is common among all assets and all specific person who are going to help and solve it. So what is in your experience, what is the first blind spot that people should look upon when they start understanding the legality of tokenization? Is it security classification, AML, or what?
First of all, I will say two topics, okay? Securities classification for sure, okay, but I will make it more bigger. Asset classification,
Ah,
because there is a misunderstanding, okay, in the sector of tokenization, that when you tokenize, you're always tokenizing a security. This is not a reality, okay? It will depend on several topics. For that reason, it's super important that when we find a lawyer, okay, how we can know if a lawyer is providing a good service? They identify what type of client we are. We are I don't know, a company from the Web2 world, like for instance, a real estate company, and they know our language. They understand what we do, what are the regulations that already apply to us. If we are a Web3 company, for instance, if we want, I don't know, an exchange, or first of all, the subject, then the object. Okay, the object means they understand the asset we are tokenizing. Okay, we have to see if they are understanding the real world asset that we want to tokenize, and they apply the law to that asset, because sometimes the same law that applies to the real world asset will apply to their digital representation. Okay, this will show us if the person that we are talking to knows really what we are going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, when they are not trying to sell us a service that we don't need. That is the most important thing. Okay,
Yes, I understand. Yes.
and then we will see, we will need to understand who are the people we want to sell or want to give, we want to give our digital representation. Okay, who is the investor? If we have a law firm that understands that, this is the maximum pain of all, understanding the subject, that is our company, the object, that is the asset we are tokenizing, and who are the recipients, like the third party, the final party, okay, that the investors. And another topic that is very important is compliance. Of course, compliance changes between jurisdictions, but as a company, for instance, if we are searching for a software to tokenize our assets, what we must have in mind, okay, is what minimum compliance measures this platform gives me. Okay, because of course, depending on the jurisdiction, we will need to understand that, but a minimum of requirements will be need to be provided, like KYCs, okay, know your customer, that is a verification of a person, okay? I will say that are the main two topics that someone that is looking for a legal or tokenization service have to understand and know.
Understood. Understood. No, that's definitely a great, I'll say, explanation, and it solves the basic purpose that people want to understand. But there is one thing that you mentioned, it got stuck in my head, and I'm trying to understand that. You said obviously there are different regulations, different compliances based on the geographies. So we can call it as a fragmentation of compliances or regulatory bodies, right? While we see, US coming out with a new law for digital assets, Europe coming out with their own law, Asian countries coming out with their own laws. It's very hard for even legal people, people like you who are in the industry, even it's hard for you to keep track of all these different laws. So how do you manage these different fragmented compliances?
It is a very good question, and it's a difficult job to do.
Yes.
But how we can solve it as lawyers is to understand the three things that I recommended to the company. The lawyer must know. If we know where our client is based and what asset is tokenizing and to whom is selling this asset, we can analyze the jurisdictions that will apply from the company and from the investors. And in that case, we can reduce a lot. For instance, if we are a company based on Spain, for instance, no, in Europe, we know that European and Spanish laws will apply for sure.
Yeah.
Then we have to ask ourselves, who is the person that is going to buy this asset, okay? And in that case, we will analyze the laws of these buyers also. Because for instance, if my company is in India, but I want to sell assets to someone in Europe, the European laws, for instance, MiCA, okay, has direct application will apply, okay? For that reason, is a very important thing to do is to have the three steps that I told you are the most important ones for companies and for lawyers to be aligned and to understand what laws will apply.
Ah, interesting. So what asset you are tokenizing, where you are based, and who is going to buy it. These are the key steps. So for example, while people get excited about, okay, US is doing this or Canada is doing this, but if you're building in India and selling in Europe, you are not concerned with the US Canada market at all. While it's good to track, these are their own markets in themselves, right? And you need to track that. And does this also means that while sitting in India, if I know there is a particular jurisdiction which is having very favorable laws for tokenization, I shouldn't bother shifting there. I can just set up my company there and start selling in that particular jurisdiction to be an easy environment, right?
Correct. You are totally correct. In fact, there is a common thing to do for some companies that want to tokenize their assets if they see that their jurisdiction is not particularly beneficial for tokenization, or they have doubts. Because sometimes what the companies, or my experience is that sometimes companies want to have the assurance that what they are doing is based on the law. Okay, not avoid it, but understand it, no?
Yes.
And for that reason, sometimes they prefer to go to a place that they know something is governed or regulated. And they make an SPV, or they move their headquarters, or they do only like a company for the tokenization purposes.
Understood. Understood. That's very interesting. To take a step back in some different direction, while we are talking about helping companies in the initial stage of their tokenization, like when they are setting up, when they're planning to launch, there are other aspects, legal aspects, right? As you mentioned, your platform is acting as a SaaS platform and helping people tokenize and then connecting the right legal advisors. So what are the legal challenges after the asset is tokenized? Is there any help that a tokenized asset or blockchain based ecosystem gives to that legal case?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because then it goes like, we can divide the tokenization processes in three steps. Okay, we have the issuance, this is the one that we have already talked, no? Then we have the management, and then we have what we want to do with the asset, no? If we want to provide dividends or other things, no? The management is the big misunderstood of the sector, because we think that issuance and giving the profit is what matters, but it's not the only thing. Okay, management is essential also if you think about a legal perspective. And with that, I will go to the first question that you did. What is blockchain solving, no? For instance, what can solve blockchain in the management sphere, no? um, and tokenization. Imagine that you have a company in Spain. Okay, I will take the case of Spain, and you want to tokenize your financial instrument that is a shares of your company. Okay, because you want to expand your business to India. Okay, and you do that, but then you have a problem because you have investors. Okay, you have investors that you have to inform how is it going in the company. You have to give information about your accounts, and you have to have your management meetings with investors, no? And you have several ones, and they are in India. They are far away from you, no? But you want to keep them informed. That is the essential part also for tokenization. And if we think that tokenization is only issuance, we are losing, for me, the most important part of tokenization, that is also managing your investors in a correct manner.
Oh,
Okay, like this concept already exists in Web 2. Okay, we have companies that already solve this, but having a company that solves all the life cycle is essential, I think, from my perspective, if a company comes to me.
amazing, amazing. No, one thing I think the biggest takeaway while we are in the middle of this podcast, and there are many other questions that I'm going to ask, but this is going to be the biggest takeaway for me. People forget the middle part of tokenization. They focus too much on issuance and then selling that assets or doing something with that assets, dividends or whatnot. But the management of asset, which is the heart of tokenization, right, which is the main agenda behind bringing your asset on a blockchain and digitalizing it. People misunderstand that. They do not understand the weight or gravity of that particular feature, and that's where the true value lies. I'm really astounded by the example that you just shared for the investor management. That's a great case study. I think many other things come in between. The MiCA data of the assets that help solve legal issues or tracking the assets easily, and tracking for investors as well, but other purposes as well. It becomes much more easier. So amazing. That really is going to be a highlight for this particular podcast session. So while when it comes to management of assets on chain, are there any particular laws that are making it difficult for you to handle that?
Wow. It's difficult question, because the management per se depends on also the jurisdiction, no? And sometimes we have fragmentation. For instance, just in Europe, we already have fragmentation, no? About how we can tokenize some specific assets and manage them. Because some countries require that a third party is always involved, like a notary or a registry. And with that, sometimes the off-chain and on-chain, okay, when I'm talking off-chain, I'm talking from the real world, and on-chain from the digital world, no, have to go hand by hand. For that reason, it's always important to have someone that knows this trickiness of the real world, no, like a lawyer. And for that reason, we have to be aware of that. Like, if we are a company, we have to understand that tokenization is there. It's solving a lot of problems. It's reducing a lot of costs. It's opening barriers between countries. But we have to understand that depending on the jurisdiction, we may have to have some off-chain steps to take, no? As it is, for instance, in some countries, we will be required that our investors have a specific identification document of that country, and we will have to manage that. It's true that we can have the on-chain tools to help us. For instance, if we have KYCs, no, implemented, then we can have the information of our investors and not just comply with the law, but maybe we can proceed with the notary in an easiest way, providing that documentation. Okay, but it's true that that is an issue. I will not say an issue, but it's a situation that exists. Some countries are developing tools in order to put the two words, no, connected, but we are getting there, no. It's an innovative sector at the end, but of course, if you are a company, if you are someone that wants to tokenize, always remember to check the off-chain steps. Okay.
Amazing. And it's very true what you are saying. Coordinating between these two worlds is very difficult. It's challenging as of now. I remember in 2019, I used to work for a client who was trying to create a digital money market, decentralized money market, and they were using R3 Corda at that time. Now, R3 Corda was one enterprise grade DLT solution. It didn't actually qualify as a blockchain, but they created something between a blockchain and a digital solution, a decentralized ledger technology, which had a digital notary. So, for example, you can register a notary as a separate entity on that distributed ledger, and that notary can then validate transactions between the two parties that are doing it. Right? While it was an innovative solution, but still, there were many hurdles that had to be overcome. Major one was acceptance by the government authorities, that is this a genuine possibility or not, right? Because that what matters most, as you rightly mentioned. So really interesting. I think once we have more clarity on this front of how these laws can enable third parties to also exist on chain, that will bridge a huge
Yeah.
gap.
Yeah,
Coming
like the people that I was explaining at the beginning, no? They saw this as an opportunity, not as a pain, and they use that like a benefit, no? I think that is the next step also authorities must do, no?
Absolutely. I think someone building in the tokenization space might take a step back and look into this aspect. How can they help mediate between these two worlds? Right?
Correct.
While issuance is easier now, it's becoming easier because of a lot of hard work that people have put in, and distribution is easier. How can you manage management as well? How can you optimize that? That's one
Correct.
takeaway for the audience for sure. So coming to the laws aspect, there are different laws that are coming up. I know we talked about different jurisdictions, fragmented laws. There is one law in particular which you also mentioned in the last few lines, which is MiCA regulation in Europe. So while MiCA regulations still proved to be helpful to many companies, some were against it, as with every law. What is one aspect of MiCA which so to say keeps you up at night, that which troubles you?
Yeah, I will say that maybe marketing communications. Okay, this is the articles that no one is talking about, no, because we are talking about the white papers, we are talking about the security measures we have to implement, in the companies, the cash, the VASPs, all of these. It's been talked a lot. But in fact, a lot of companies in the sector already done that because they were looking at MiFID II, okay, that is another European regulation that governs securities, and they were on the focus, and they knew that at some point this law it was going to influence asset reference utility tokens, no? But marketing communications is the one that is forgotten because I don't know if you know that, but you have to be careful with your marketing communications. If you are a company that has, for instance, an utility token, no? You want to say, oh, I have the best utility token. Be careful with that, okay? You cannot do that. Some European countries already had laws governing that, but some of them do not. And also, as we were talking before, no, if you are maybe in India and you want to send in Europe, you have to have that in mind, that you have to apply this marketing communications control. What it means that you have to be aligned with your white paper, okay, always. But imagine that you have an utility token and you issued that utility token 4 years ago. Of course, a lot of things change, no? Then what you have to do, you have to follow your white paper, but now you have other things and it's a little bit confusing. That for me makes me think a lot. Also, of course, if you hire service providers, like we know that a lot of people in the industry goes with Instagrammers or PR companies or other companies that provide marketing communications, but you have to be very aware what they are doing. If you're a company, you now need to control what they are saying, how they are saying it, okay? Because if not, the authority can put a fine to you, no? And also they can request that you provide information about your marketing communications. At some point, maybe you are not aware, you have your company in India, you are perfectly fine. And one day the authority in Spain says, hey, you are trying to sell to my citizens. You have to now give me your marketing communications, no? For me, this makes a lot of makes me a little bit crazy, but I want to see how it evolves and how goes that.
No, absolutely. And honestly, I didn't knew about this particular aspect of MiCA regulation, but it's very, I'll say, required. I've been in the marketing industry for some time, and I've seen the kind of tricks people use in PR. Right, utility token remains utility token only on paper. They try to sell it by saying what not in PR and try to bring on investors and whatnot, right? And while it's a pain for the legal industry, people like yourself who want to make sure that the right message is sent, PR teams are too fragmented. They are too inexperienced right now in Web3. They do not understand this and they go out with any messaging that they can, right?
Correct.
Like I've seen teams who I just saw this case study, I think day before yesterday, that one simple intern was managing $50,000 worth of PR for bigger companies. So
Wow.
an intern who is just fresh out of college doesn't even understand the industry and legalities. How can he manage the PR on such big platforms, right? So
Correct.
that's a pain point for sure. I'm sure would love to understand sometime how exactly you handle that. It must be a headache.
Yeah.
But I think with your experience in teaching, that might come to you naturally. I would like the audience to know that you also teach a master's in blockchain, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
wrong.
Yeah. Yes. In EBIS is the university here in Spain that does classes internationally, and we discuss topics like we are very focused on compliance and legality. Okay,
Wow.
compliance by design. That means because sometimes these my students are already lawyers, no, but they want to have better understanding of how blockchain, no, interacts with them because they are maybe tech lawyers, but they are not focused on that, no. And we work in order to understand that we have to be compliant by design. This means, no, what we are discussing right now about the marketing communications and what you are saying about investors, no, that is need to protect investors, but always go one step before something happens, a law appears. Like we already been working that we have been already discussing that marketing communications have to have clear messages, be aligned with the company, because we have seen that in other jurisdictions, okay, that already happened. For that reason, as lawyers, we said, okay, this is going to happen at some point here in Europe in general terms, no? For that reason, is like what I try to teach, not the students, like to be always legal by design, one step before something happens.
Amazing, amazing. So in general industries like other industries, people always think one step ahead, how to what to do next. But if you want to remain compliant and safeguard your whole company, you need to be one step behind of what's happening. You need to
Correct.
understand the core before going forward. You cannot go, all guns and flying guns inside the ecosystem, right? But that's amazing, very interesting. And just to share this with you, most of our audiences is from the universities and schools and colleges regards as well, because we have a couple of center of excellences in top universities in India, and we have been doing hackathons and other blockchain sessions for people. I in fact even have my own small book. I'll not share here, otherwise it becomes a publicity thing. So I even have a small book I wrote that is being used to help students understand. It's titled Why Blockchain. So we would love to invite you sometime
Of
for such
course.
a session for our students. But uh, on that regards, what is the biggest I'll say challenge that you see in students? So you mentioned you help tech students in general, tech lawyers who do not understand blockchain, and help them figure out this industry. What is the biggest challenge they face in terms of accepting tokenization of assets?
I think it's the discussions we had already. Is what like were what is important for companies, for investors, is also important for lawyers, okay, and for students, because sometimes what is difficult to understand is all the fragmentation between jurisdictions. What is what the laws are governing? Okay, this is the main objective or the main doubt that people has, because sometimes they think that what the laws are governing, okay, is the asset, the crypto active, the cryptocurrency, but it's not true. What normally regulations govern is the subjects, the companies. And for that reason, as companies, as students, as investors, we have to have all that in mind. No? And I think this is the main doubt that my students have is uh, jurisdiction fragmentation, how to be able to assess a company that has a, like a base in one country and sells to another country. That is the
Ah,
most difficult thing to do. And of course, what is the law governing in reality? You know, these are the three main doubts that they have.
amazing. So at the end, every situation comes down to these three aspects that people miss:
Mhm.
issuance, management, and usage. You need to figure that out no matter which part of the supply chain you are in. Even if you're not a legal expert, even if you are a marketing expert or a tech expert as well,
Correct.
you need to understand these three things when tokenizing an asset. People focus too much on just issuance these days, just signing deals that okay, we are going to tokenize billions of dollars of assets, but how are you going to manage and sell? That's a whole story altogether. Amazing, amazing. I love these insights. I've been working with so many tokenized clients that I can see these insights, that this is actually the loophole in the industry, the fragmented industry, I'll say, and
Hmm.
needs to cover up soon.
Totally agree.
Perfect. So, on these lines, can you share any example of any clients? Obviously, if you can share the name, otherwise,
Mhm.
just an example as well. Any clients that Brickken helped recently in their journey towards tokenizing of assets, and what kind of advantages they could get, how they saved on money and time and other areas.
Okay. One case that I really think is very interesting from a legal standpoint of view also is Hacken. Okay, I don't know if you know which company is Hacken, that they audit smart contracts, no?
I know. Yes.
But they
I
audit.
receive. We all receive a lot of message from hacking to audit our things. Yes.
In fact, they audit our smart contract as well, no?
Yeah.
And they used our software, okay, in order to transform their utility tokens into equity tokens, because that is super interesting, super like for me it's a change in the in our mind, no, like how you can use an utility token then convert it into a equity token.
I'm
Okay,
still trying to fathom that it's possible.
it
Wow.
is it is possible, and they did that, no, and of course, well, I think the community was really happy. It was a really interesting case. And how Brickken helped them, well, of course they are Web3 perfectly company for me, no, but also I think they, of course, they reduce costs. They were able to achieve several investors around the world. They were able not to give to, maybe, I think, I believe this is my opinion, but maybe to their investors that they wanted to have part of their company, no, to be able to be there and to change their utility token, no, to create that loyalty, or I don't know, connection, no,
Oh,
maybe. I think that change, and of course, well, the management that they are able to do, no, to discuss with their investors, to, well, they are, I don't know where are they in the moment of the life cycle, okay, because we provide like the software, and then the client on its own, no, with its lawyers, they manage it. But I think that with all the procedure, they were really happy, and all the reduction, of course, of barriers, I can say.
wow. Like I think in this regards, first of all, understanding that utility token can convert into a security, that's difficult enough job, but then actually doing it, I'm sure a lot of good stuff's happening that I would love to know much more in depth. Sadly, we do not have enough time for the podcast, but I would have jumped into that if you would share more details on that. But I have a couple of very interesting questions I have already thought of that I want to ask. So I'll go in that regards. But this is an amazing case study. I don't think it can be bigger than this. If the audience is listening, this particular case study, this is how you actually implement real life, you know, legal use cases in blockchain, which can be taught in books later on, which can be the
Totally.
basis of thesis later on and become a course structure later on, right? So amazing. So the couple of things that I have in mind. Firstly, I wanted to understand, uh, while many clients uh, understand that legal clarity is needed, right? They want to go
Mhm.
towards a more compliant ecosystem, but they put it on the back hold because they do not understand the gravity of legal clarity.
Mhm.
So, in your opinion, what you have seen in the industry for the past 3.5 years in blockchain, what is the factor that people should understand? What is the outcome they can expect when they have legal clarity, right? Maybe faster onboarding, more investments, more volume, more safety. What is the biggest factor they should consider that they can achieve this only when they have legal clarity?
I think several topic, like several things. First of all, of course, security. They will be more comfortable with what they are doing. Okay, they will reduce time, because if you know the off chain and off on chain, that you remember we were talking about actions that you have to take, you will be able to do it faster, and also to be able to reduce costs, because you can find a provider, okay, a legal law firm, maybe a notary, or like you are able to understand how you can reduce costs because you understand the procedure. Okay, if you have legal clarity, you can know what type of lawyer I need. No, if I know that when I tokenize, for instance, uh, um, a share, I have to have a special person that knows about companies and tokenization, a lawyer that is specialized on that topic, no? I can reduce the time to share in several lawyers, discuss with several lawyers that they don't know what they are saying, that is not their specification,
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
find the one that is perfect for my business, for my idea, With that, I reduce time, of course, cost, and also, well, I take a lot of stress, and for that reason I have more security, I have more security in my relation with my providers, and also I have more investors, because if the investors see that you have all the documentation perfect, that you know how to explain your corporate and legal structure, they see that you are providing something that is interesting, of course. maybe you have a perfect legal structure, but if you are not providing them something that they seem is interesting, they maybe not want to invest in you. But if you are clear with your business approach, I think you can have like the perfect company and tokenization process, and investors will be really interested on your company.
Absolutely, and it totally aligns with where the industry is right now. Because gone are the days. It was 4 5 years ago when people used to just, register their token entity in SVG or Panama and just go ahead with it, right? They
Yeah.
didn't have any other things. In most cases, I've seen that even they have not even registered the company anywhere, just the token, and they are doing everything with that, right?
Yeah.
But now the world is becoming more compliant and real adoption is happening. So you need this legal clarity. If you are still in that mindset, what was happening 4 5 years back and can still sustain, not at all possible. You need legal clarity. Only then you can focus on all other aspects, on
Correct.
securing more investments, securing your mindset, your stress levels, volume, liquidity, everything. It depends on that. So amazing. Perfect. So, uh, another, so one of the few last questions I have in mind, Elisenda, I know it's been a long session and I've already taken a lot of your time. Really thankful for you allocating this much time. But a couple of more questions, and I'll be done by, I'm sure.
Of course.
So, one very interesting use case that's going on in the market is real estate tokenization. Everyone is talking about real estate tokenization because it's something that's very uh, easy to understand for people. They already were trying to buy a fractional ownership in real estate, so that's why it's taking up quite faster, especially in the Middle East, right, with the biggest companies coming in real estate tokenization. So if a general counsel at a, let's say, mid-sized real estate firm wants to explore tokenization, but is not able to understand regulatory or the legal aspect of how tokenization actually works, or where they should start, what is the first piece of guidance you would give to them? And I'm talking mid-sized firms. I know bigger size firms, they will just quickly get the best lawyers out there and get it done. But mid-sized firms who have a very dependable, general counsel that they uh, trust and respect for a long time, how can they get started?
If you're a real estate company, what you have to understand, first of all, as the counsel, a general counsel, and also if you are internal or if you are external or the board of the company, is to understand that what is, and I'm going to the same as before, what is we are tokenizing? Because there is a big misunderstanding thinking, and I think this applies to all jurisdictions. Maybe I'm incorrect, some jurisdiction, someone says no, but in general terms, you are not going to tokenize the building. Okay, that is a very big misunderstanding in the sector.
Indeed, yes, that's true. Yeah, please.
And that for sure we have to have in mind. Of course, if you are a general counsel that is specifically working inside the company of a real estate company, you have almost all job done. You don't have to worry because you will know that what is we are going to sell to our investors. This happens, the same mindset that in the real world will happen in the tokenization. Okay, what is we are going to sell to our investors? We are going to give them some type of agreement, like a debt agreement, a revenue stream agreement. Like what it means that no, we are going to imagine you are building something and you're going to give a return on the investment. Okay, based on the investment, you give some 3% on the investment that you made, no? Or you are going to sell some kind of shares or another type of financial instrument, okay? But this doesn't change that much from the real world issues that a general counsel inside a real estate company will have, or advisor, no? Then we have to understand the tokenization. What is that we need to see, or what is that we need to use in order to not mess this up, okay? We have to be careful how this asset is put on chain, okay? We cannot change the classification of the asset in the real world. If we change the classification, then we cannot create a digital twin. We will need to assess then that asset that we put in the blockchain, okay? For that reason, it's essential that if you are going to tokenize, you search a provider, okay? Or you search for a service provider or company that helps you, that provides something that really knows what they are doing in tokenization. Okay, you have to worry as a general counsel in the real estate about your company, what is doing and what wants to achieve, and be able to search for an external provider that fits perfectly your vision. Okay, that is very difficult job because of course the tokenization sector is not that big. We are growing, more service providers are appearing, but it's essential to be able to search for the perfect service provider that provides us with a service that allows us to replicate what we have in our mind as legal advisors. That makes sense? Difficult to understand?
No, 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 no. Very, very easy to understand. Thanks for such a plain and easy description of this. And I cannot stress this point enough about the service providers, because what happens generally is that if you are tokenizing something, you never even check the past experience of the company that you are using to tokenize that asset. They do not understand that asset a lot. And no matter how many project managers you put in, how many expensive resources you put in, if you do not understand the industry, how can they replicate your asset? If they miss even one single property, then it's not a replication of your asset. You cannot de-tokenize later on.
Yeah, but this is going to change because how, okay, then the question comes, how I can check if a tokenizing or tokenization provider or software provider is accurate as what I want, and how I can know if it's good. We have several manners to know that, okay? We can ask for audits to check what they have received. For instance, no, we were talking about Hacken, maybe know what smart contract has been audited. Also, if they apply the regulations, like for instance, in Europe, we have DORA, no? If you are a software provider for services to security companies, then you have to have that. You can ask several things. ISO is also something that you can ask to the company. You can see what clients this company has, check what they have done, if they have clients that are similar to you, and how they are structured, you know? It's some lines that you have to follow, no? But it's not different from when you are searching a provider in another thing, you know? Like when you're going to search a provider for your company because you have to buy, I don't know, shares, of course you're going to see what type of share I need. They are like, I have this framework of prices, but I want to this type of quality. It's the same. We have to have the same mindset, but sometimes with technology, no, and lawyers and companies that are in the Web2 space, we get a little bit afraid. I don't know if I know how to give or to know what is the good provider, no? But it's the same mindset. Like, as you see, almost everything is the same. Just we are putting a layer of technology.
Understood, understood. And it's like you have to change your entrepreneurial mindset. You cannot just get started from day one if you had an idea. You have to find the proper team. Otherwise, your idea is bound to fail. And I think that's the reason why most companies have not seen the light of the day, even though they have started a lot of work in tokenization. And I think even service providers are not at fault, right? If they get a job, they are not going to say that, okay, we are not qualified, find someone else. They're going to do it. It's your responsibility as an entrepreneur to make sure that you have the right team with the right tools and the right information. Otherwise, your product is going to be useless afterwards. While Correct. It fulfills your demand now, it's not going to be used at the time when it's actually going to be used. So, but yes, definitely agree with you there. Perfect. So this brings me to the last segment of our conversation, Elisenda. And honestly, I would have loved to keep this going for another hour. There are so many insights I'm getting.
Me too.
I don't know about I don't know about the audience, but personally, I'm understanding a lot better. Right? Legal things are not something that you can discuss with just anyone. Only someone with the industry experience and who's actually, day to day managing these kind of things and even teaching other budding lawyers. That's crazy. So. What's the most overused legal buzzword in the Web3 industry that you do not like at all?
Oh, I don't like at all. Like, it's not that I don't like the word. I love the word. Real world assets. Because people think it's a, yeah, they use it a lot.
But yeah, a lot. I'm sorry to cut you there, but even most websites say RWA. Just simply real world asset, even though they are tokenizing even real estate. Just say RWA.
But I don't like it, not because I don't use it, because I use it a lot, because I think it's really general, like it has a real meaning. But for me, the issue is people think it's a legal term. And it's essential that if someone is a student, it is very important when they start in this sector, okay, in the tokenization, but in the Web3 industry, to be able to understand that we have to differentiate concepts in three manners. We have the technical, the financial, and the legal. And they may have the same name, but and commercial, of course, no? But they may have the same name, but they have different implications, okay? Like liquidity, fungibility, transmissibility, all of these terms may be used in a technical manner, but they have a legal definition that is totally different.
True.
Okay, and real world assets is a very nice, I love the word, but it's a commercial term. Okay, and when I sometimes talk with colleagues that are not lawyers but are from other industries, like from other marketing or sales or whatever, and they use real world assets, it's like, but real world asset is not a legal term. Then we have to be careful when we use words that we know that sometimes they can be confusing from the technical, financial, legal, and commercial perspective.
Absolutely. And that's a very interesting take. Definitely one of the most used words, overused words in the wrong term. When it started, it was a category for VCs to list out, okay, these are different startups that are under RWA, under real world asset. But if you classify your asset as RWA rather than going into a particular direction, you're just overcomplicating the thing. You're not being specific, right? So it's like, I want food. What type of food is going to be very much different, right? So amazing.
It's like that. Totally.
Okay. So I honestly love this conversation, Elisanda. I'm again, thanks a lot for sparing out the time today and joining us in What Are You Tokenizing? We'll be putting this episode soon, and I'm sure the audience will gain a lot of legal clarity after hearing your insights.
Thank you for having me. It has been super wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'll just